turning away from kind of EU legislation on the environment, we've had Kate in her Land Threads has written in and said, is the UK bound to any promises on protecting the environment that are not based on EU law, rather British law?
So, yes, it is, although the vast majority of British environmental law now is nested within broader EU commitments, but a lot of that policy has been adopted into UK law, and sometimes we've made it a bit stronger or given it a particular flavour. But we do have some British laws that we've developed historically or alongside. So a nice example would be the Climate Change Act, which was adopted in 2008, which is a UK piece of legislation that enables us to meet our EU commitments, but is actually a bit more ambitious and has developed a domestic system based around having an independent climate change committee and carbon budgets, which is unique to the UK.
Now seems like a good point to talk about the kind of environmental bill that's being discussed at the moment. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so there's sort of two. So there's a governance and principles bill which is due to be published on the 26th of December. So I have done some quite bitter tweeting about publishing documents on a bank holiday. Thank you very much, Michael Gove, for that commitment. So that is the bill that is responding to an amendment that was adopted to the EU Withdrawal Act, which called for guaranteed principles in the UK, because the EU has environmental principles articulated in the treaties, and there was concern that when we left the EU that the UK government would not be tied to any kind of principles. So MPs amended the Withdrawal Act, requiring the government to bring forward a bill on principles and a new watchdog for the environment by the end of the year, hence the 26th of December deadline. The government has also committed to bringing forward an environment bill, which we're expecting in spring next year, and the governance and principles bill will probably be folded into that at a later date when it gets published. So those two bills have sort of two broad commitments. The governance and principles bill will commit the government to doing something along the lines as the EU has done around environmental principles, and will also set up an environmental watchdog. We don't know exactly what that means, how strong it will be. There's a lot of concern amongst environmental NGOs that that won't be sufficient to replace the role that's played by the Commission and the European Court of Justice in implementing and enforcing environmental standards at the European level. Then the Environment Bill is supposed to be designed to fulfil the commitments that the government has made in the 25-year Environment Plan, which was published in January this year. So there's an immediate bill, which is going to be trying to implement principles and establish a watchdog. And then there's a bill that we're expecting next spring, which is supposed to be implementing the 25-year Environment Plan.
And although the two have emerged from different spaces, they're actually kind of two sides of the same thing, aren't they? Because if we set a lot of standards in January around animal welfare, for example, but we don't have a kind of good independent watchdog to hold us to account, whatever government of the day is in charge won't have a kind of an authority that's making sure they maintain those standards.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really helpful.